said, hey, you provided a service. It was just free, right? And he said, yeah. I said, you're really good at doing that. Why don't we change that just barely and ask those people for a review? There's nothing against these rules. You provided a service, you just didn't charge them. So people can do this. This particular guy was doing wildlife control, and when people called, he was helping people help these animals when it wasn't something where he was doing a removal service. Pretty cool thing, right? He's being a really nice guy. But someone might help someone with their thermostat, their HVAC. They know that a circuit's flipped by talking to the person on the phone and help them reset it. And in the past, they just go, oh, thanks, well, no problem, Bob. I appreciate the help, the client would say. Maybe I'll call you someday. But instead, Bob says, well, listen, we don't mind being of service at all. And I give out free advice all day long. But if you don't mind, could we helped you out. If you don't mind, I'd love to have a 5-star review, or I'd love to have a review. And you can ask for one. Hey there, it's Nolan Walker here. Today I'm going to talk about one simple trick to get more reviews. So I know reviews are important. If you don't know, they're extremely important, especially if you want to show up on the Google platform. Let me first say, if I had 10 reviews and Google was the most important thing that I showed up for, I'd probably like to have like 5 Google reviews, but I'd like to have a few spread out, maybe a couple of Facebook, a Yelp review, BBB, stuff like that. So I think either Google came out or somebody authoritatively said that they're signaling to favor, they want to see more than a Google review, but let's be honest, if you don't have any Google reviews, it's hard to show up on Google. So the days of showing up with no reviews are kind of over. But we can talk about that too, by the way. Why do you see people? And with more reviews, lower in search rankings is always an interesting thing to talk about, and we know why. But first, let's talk about a simple trick to add more reviews. So you need these reviews desperately in order to show up on map placement, to get signals around the web. It even helps with organic. They can show up in aggregate star rankings if you have it coded properly on your website, so if you see 5 stars next to your interior page search results. So here's the one thing, and I'm going to give several others, so one thing for each of you guys, something that you can each use. This is something I talked about with a client the other day. They had a situation where a lot of people would call, and they weren't a client, because this guy had come into our office. So we work with people all over the nation, but there's a local guy walked in here, and while we were talking to him, he picked up the phone and answered a question. He had a home service business, and he gave free advice very nicely. I said, wow, that was really interesting. I said, so they called up and you're really nice to them. You didn't make any money there. He said, no, people call up all the time, and they call up for different reasons, and I give them free advice and send them on their way, hoping they'll be a client someday. And I said, hey, you provided a service. It was just free, right? And he said, yeah. I said, you're really good at doing that. Why don't we change that just barely and ask those people for a review? There's nothing against these rules. You provided a service, you just didn't charge them. So people can do this. This particular guy was doing wildlife control, and when people called, he was helping people help these animals when it wasn't something where he was doing a removal service. Pretty cool thing, right? He's being a really nice guy. But someone might help someone with their thermostat, their HVAC. They know that a circuit's flipped by talking to the person on the phone and help them reset it. And in the past, they just go, oh, thanks, well, no problem, Bob. I appreciate the help, the client would say. Maybe I'll call you someday. But instead, Bob says, well, listen, we don't mind being of service at all, and I give out free advice all day long. But if you don't mind, could we helped you out. If you don't mind, I'd love to have a 5-star review, or I'd love to have a review, and you can ask for one. So that's an excellent little tool. I know that many of you are really nice and give out free service all day long for your different services that you provide. And you may as well ask for a review. There's nothing against the Google rules for it. You are providing a service. They can give you a review for helping them out. And of course, I would always end it saying, hey, you don't have to, but I sure would appreciate it. That's how I instructed this other guy to do it. man, he got dozens of reviews. And by the way, yes, he went up in map ranking combined with all the other great work that we did for him. He's now showing up on all kinds of stuff, transformed the business, shows up everywhere. Because actually in this particular business, he's getting more of these calls than the other actual calls. So it was a great return when all that went through. So yeah, that's the first one. Now here's the next one, and this one seems simple, and I hear people say that they try this, but I know from doing this for years that they haven't really tried it and done it properly. And what I mean is ask nicely in person. So someone, human being to human being, in person asking. When someone makes reviews a company mantra, it's something serious that your company does, and you've integrated it as a primary thing you do online to help your business, then you will get response. We've seen reports of this in the industry where people get up to 300, 400, 500% more. And I think typically what happens if you have a staff and you're not doing this, and it's not like written in blood into your company procedural set, they're just not doing it properly. You need to have checks and balances and check up on it. So you don't just say this and release a memo, and you need to follow up. You might, and work on this. And so you ask nicely in person. So if it were me, what would Nolan do? What would I do? I would have Nolan's 5 steps to review success, or whatever your name is, Bob's 5 steps to review success. Implement this into your business. And I would have a company meeting about how important it was. I'd have a meeting about how we're going to ask and what, how that's going to go down when we're at the customer's house or on the phone or whatever. And the very first thing that happens is you ask nicely in person. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming out to fix our HVAC system, or to remove this raccoon, or to whatever it is that they did. Say, hey, man, we loved being a service for you. Sure would appreciate it if we could get a review on our Google account or this account or whatever. And then they say, shake your hand and say, no problem, Bob, I appreciate it. But you know what? You asked nicely and you went from getting 0 to getting a few, but you still don't get the majority of people to leave you a review. So what do? Well, there's some programs for this. We offer something that does a text back. Enter their cell phone, get a text. Enter their email, get an email with direct links to your review sites like Google and Facebook and BBB and stuff like that. So now you have asked nicely in person. Oh, I'm going to back up. When you're in person, you handed them something in print. It said thank you. It might have been a card, but I'd really prefer to see you hand out a thank you card, something that you went out of your way to print. There was a 5x7, a 3x5, and you handed it over and say, hey, Bob, no problem. If you'll go right here on our website, there's a direct link. Or if you'll just type our name into Google, our knowledge graph will pop up and you can give us a review. And so you asked them nicely, you were serious about it, you gave them something in print, you handed it to them, you left, you texted them, and you emailed them, we're up to 4, and then you follow up. Especially if you have somebody in your office, and even if, I will tell you, even if it's you and you're starting up, you better do it yourself. By the time you're not doing it yourself and you got busy, you hired somebody to help with the phones. That person helps with the phones, calls and follows up. If those people didn't leave a review or even did leave a review, say, hey, I just wanted to say thanks. How was the service? Did it go well? And so you call and you check on these items, you check with it and say, we sure would love a review. Leave them alone after this. Leave them alone after that. But ask them, and don't make any of this, don't pester them, don't make it come off insincere. Have this flow naturally, and call up and really care. Did you get serviced well? Yeah, I did. Don't bug them with a lot of time. People don't want to answer 20 questions. Just say, hey, we just want to follow up and see if you received good service. Is there anything we could have done better? No, it was great. Well, I appreciate it. And don't forget, please, I would explain to the client, if it was my business, that if you'll give us a review, it actually helps us out. So when we get those reviews, it helps our rankings and helps us online. We really would appreciate it again. So it's always a heartfelt deal. It's down to earth. It's not corny or canned. It's done with sincerity. Now, whoever's doing this for you, if you're not the one doing it, they need to be sincere, or it's going to come off bad, and you'll feel like they're getting pestered by people that don't care about them. So that's important too, sincerity through this process. So I hope you enjoyed the one simple trick, which I expanded on how to get more reviews. And guys, we would love to hear from you so that we can integrate everything that we do well, so that you can get enough signals from Google to dominate your organic rankings. If you want to do paid advertising on Google or Facebook, we help with that as well, and so many other things. So take a look around. We look forward to hearing from you.